Oh, wait a minute. It is not connecting to my LinkedIn. Now it is connected to my LinkedIn. Awesome. The beauty of technology. There we
Love it.
go.
Love it.
All of the platforms are connected. Listen, you guys, thank you so much.
It's
It is
important.
11 a.m. and it is time for Laquita's Toolbox Live. I am your host, Laquita Bondley, and I know it has been, you're probably saying, Laquita, it has been far too long since you've been on live for the Laquita's Toolbox. And you're right. I apologize. I have not had a live show in quite some time, but the things are changing. It's in my schedule now. So it'll be more regular. I'd also like to take this moment to give a special shout out to our sponsors, Covenant Press. Covenant Press is a faith based Christian apparel and accessory shop. Uh, Anything that you can think of that you might want to wear that exemplifies and glorifies God, you can find that at Covenant Press. You can look for them at www.covenant-press.com. That's www.covenant-press.com. And if you do $40 or more worth of shopping with them online and you type in the code favored, that's FAVORED, in the discount code, you will receive 50% off any purchase of $40 or more. So
Wow.
you guys, please check out Covenant Press. Listen, today, I know you guys have been looking at the lineup for today. We have Miss Amy Rose Herrick, and she is going to be giving us some amazing gems, some amazing tools today, and talk about the buy sell agreement. So I won't waste too much more air. I'm going to let Amy introduce herself, and we're going to get right into the specifics on the buy sell agreement. Hey, Miss Amy,
Oh,
how are
hey.
you?
Oh, it's good to be back with you. Well, I'm Amy Rose Herrick, and I am a wizard. I create something out of nothing, generally out of thin air on demand. And I'm also America's profit building specialist. So I am here today to be a blessing to you. And Lakita and I are going to have a lot to talk about.
Yes, we had a great conversation earlier this week, and
Mhm.
I've been looking forward to this live because, listen, buy sell agreements are important, but transparency is like I didn't think about that. I wonder how many other people didn't think about that. Well,
Mhm.
let's go ahead and be a blessing. So let's start off by letting everybody know, okay, exactly what is a buy sell agreement.
Well, think about your business. And this is, of course, geared towards those individuals who are entrepreneurs, who are business owners, and your business is an asset. And I'm going to tell you at some point, you are going to sell this asset, whether
Mhm.
you are selling it because you want to, and or you are selling it because of a death or a disability, or your estate needs to handle it. So we are looking at making sure that this business just doesn't implode, that there is some type of succession plan. And
Mm,
that's where a buy sell agreement comes in. Now, I'm going to give a couple of examples. Let's pretend that I have a partner. And I could have one partner, I could have three, but we're just going to say there are two of us that are partners. And
okay.
in this business, we each own a part of the business, whether it's 25, 75, 49, 51, whatever. Lakita, you and I are partners. And let's say
Okay.
we're 50-50 partners in our business. And in this business, we have set it up that, well, I own my half, you own your half, and we're both participating in this business. And we're what's making sure that this business makes money and works for both of us. But I'll go ahead and I'll take myself out.
Okay.
I take myself out. You know, everything was going fine. I left at lunch and I was in a car accident and I am never coming back.
All right.
But we didn't have a buy sell agreement. And it
Mm,
just so happened in my estate planning, I said that whatever my assets were to be divided equally between my children.
mm.
Lakita, you know, I have 5 kids. So that means that my 50% share is going to get divided between 5 kids, and they each have 20% of my 50%. Are you already rolling your eyes at the math?
At the top of
Now,
the conversation.
yes. Okay. Maybe you don't want to be in business with my 5 kids who cannot replace me. But
Mm-hmm.
now, what else do they have? Well, they got voting power.
Mm.
Now, we were 50-50 partners.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I see it is there is only one outcome, and that is that if one person or 50% says no and 50% says yes, no always wins
It always wins.
because there's no majority. So I've
Yeah.
now put Lakita in a position that if she wants to do anything in the business, she's got to get at least one of my kids on board
Mm.
to have a majority vote, or we can all just say no. Now, do you think those kids are going to come work in the business?
Probably not. Not if
Do
they
you?
weren't already working in the business.
No. Do you think that
Yeah,
they're still going to want money out of that business?
absolutely. I would.
Well, do you think somebody who sat on the bench, at the soccer team who has an uncle's brother in a similar business has already told them that this business is worth a gazillion dollars? And if they took anything less than a gazillion dollars, they'd be nuts. So they're going to show you a number that is ridiculous, and you are welcome to buy them out with a number that is outrageous. Now,
That
how's this really going to work?
it's going to be frustrating.
Are you going to
It's
be
going to be
happy with this business?
not at all.
No,
Not at
no.
all.
You just got 5 partners you didn't ask for. Now,
Mm.
that is the ugly scenario. Even if
Okay.
you all got along, they want you to keep sending checks and you got to pay somebody to replace me. You're maybe doing twice the work. If you want to raise, you got to vote on it. This is
Mm.
not gonna work. So now let's try another scenario. We didn't like that one. So you and I have a
Okay.
buy-sell agreement. And that buy-sell agreement we both entered into when we are healthy and of sound mind. Both of us
Hmm.
ladies are not incapacitated in any way. And in our buy-sell agreement, it said that Lakita has the first rights to buy my portion of the business. We have already laid out the terms. And in my
Okay.
case, we're going to say that the terms were that she is going to do a valuation of the business, and we have already set up how we're going to value the business. And hypothetically, we're going to say that the value of my share is 50% of the average gross revenues over the last 3 years. Very easy.
Very easy.
Very easy. We already have set up, and the other valuations could be different, but this is what we're going to say.
Okay.
And we now have a number that she can calculate by looking at the last 3 tax returns, and the kids can see it, or whoever. It's very cut and dried. We've said that she needs to pay it within 90 days. Well, that gives her a little bit of time to collect, because if I'm a smart person,
Hmm.
Lakita is going to own a life insurance contract on me that
Hmm.
she pays the premiums on, pennies on the dollar. And when I die, she's going to get a copy of the death certificate, turning it in. She's probably going to have that insurance money within 30 days
Hmm.
to be able to buy out my estate or my heirs. And she owns how much of the business? 100% of the
100%.
business.
Now
And
let's
not
talk about.
like
So
100%. And how much did
yeah.
it cost her? It cost her whatever she paid in the insurance premiums. But for those of you who are thinking even a little further ahead, her cost basis also just increased by whatever she paid based on that formula. So when she goes to sell it later, she
Hmm.
also has a very clean paper trail on that. And if we had goofed up, and I say the 90 days because what if we had life insurance and she hadn't updated it in the last 4 or 5 years and she's
Mm.
$30,000 short? That gives
Mm.
her the time to come
To
up with a
collect
little
those
bit of extra
funds.
money. But so does that help you see how on a buy sell agreement, you and I have already figured out what's going to happen with our
Hmm.
shares? We've done
That's
pricing, we know how to fund it, we know who it's going. It's done.
it's done. You've pointed out a lot of key things there, but where I want to start is the life insurance policy. Let's
Mhm.
start there because in case some people heard that and said, "Now that's cheeky. Why they got insurance on each other?" But it's necessary, right? So talk to us a little bit about as we're putting together this buy sell agreement, and we've came to that decision to put because in this scenario, I have that policy on you, but
Mhm.
you would also have that policy on me. Why are
Correct.
those policies in place and why are they necessary and what are they called?
Okay. Laquita, I like round numbers.
Yes, you
You
do.
know, let's say that each one of our shares is worth $1 million. It's a
Okay.
number. Lakita, if I drop dead and we had a buy sell agreement that says that you need to buy that out within 90 days or
Hmm.
the kids can do something else, you got $1 million laying around?
Absolutely not.
If you didn't have $1 million laying around, that's one problem. The
Okay.
second one in says, well, maybe you can go borrow the money.
Mm.
Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't, depending
Hmm.
upon lines of credit. Oh, that comes into play too.
Yeah.
And some other things within the business. And being able to come up with that money may not be feasible. So we may have a buy sell agreement, but if you do not have money set aside specifically that is never touched, then we
Hmm.
call it an unfunded buy sell agreement.
Okay.
Unfunded. Now,
Okay.
when we put life insurance in place, now we have a funded buy sell agreement. So, as long as that life insurance amount is adequate to purchase that share, we already know that the money is going to be there. We
Hmm.
know Lakita is going to receive it, and we're going to make sure that's a different topic, but she's not going to have an unholy triangle. She is going to be the owner of this policy. She's going to be the beneficiary on an individual basis, and I'm going to be the insured.
Okay.
That makes sure that when she receives this money,
Hmm.
those proceeds are tax free to her. And $1 million tax free, let's face it, is a lot of money.
Yes, it is. I want that
Now,
all
for
day,
that,
every day.
so when we've set the policy up right, and we're just going to pull a fictitious number out of the air. Maybe she wanted to go the absolute cheapest she could for a 10 or 20-year period and then come back and revisit it. Wasn't sure if the company would be sold by then, but so she is paying out probably $2,000 a year. I don't know.
Okay.
It depends on the policy, but
Hmm.
she's going to pay a $2,000 premium every year to lock in that coverage. Now, if I die, let's tell the truth. She hit the jackpot. Didn't cost her much. It sure didn't cost her $1 million
No.
in order to be able to buy it. If we get further down the road and you know what? We sell the business. We don't
Okay.
need that policy anymore.
Okay.
She could cancel the policy. If she had a cashback policy, she might get a little refund, or she could say, you know what, Amy, I don't need this coverage anymore. I'll sell this
Hmm.
policy to you for $100, and then you can take over ownership and name any beneficiary you want.
Okay.
So it is an asset that is hers personally. It doesn't
Mm.
belong to the business.
Okay.
Now, so that's where the life insurance to me comes in to be very effective, very clean transaction and accomplishes a lot of things. It makes sure the money is available to fund the buy
Hmm.
sell agreement.
Hmm.
It makes sure that we are controlling who gets it, which in this case is my partner, Lakita. It is also assuring that when we buy out the business, we have now increased Lakita's cost basis by $1 million because that's what she used the insurance proceeds to
Was it to do?
pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of my beneficiaries are happy because what did they get?
They got the money.
Did they have to do anything in the business?
They did not.
No. Did you have to deal with them in the business?
I did not.
No. So do
I
you
did
see
not.
where how you structure something like that can have a huge difference on the outcome?
It does. I do. I do. When when we first began to have that conversation and talk about the buy sell agreement, and I'll just call it a key man life insurance policy.
Mhm.
Those dots connected. So many things that um, one has to think about. And so, let's say me and Sally are now wanting to be your clients, and we've started this company together.
Mhm.
The widgets. We're selling widgets together.
Widgets.
Yeah, we're selling widgets together and we're coming to you and said, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to set up this company, or we've set it up. Now, help us figure out what this buy sell agreement should look like. So if we have people that are
Mhm.
listening and say, okay, Laquita, this sounds great, but how do I get started? What do I need to be doing? What questions do I need to be asking? How does one begin the process of putting together a solid buy sell agreement?
Well, one of the your show, so I don't want to plug things inappropriately, but one of the tools I have is I have a book, and
Hmm.
then in the back of it, I have a checklist where you go through, and here's some of the basics so that you
Hmm.
understand. We want to know who all the partners are. What are
Okay.
their names, their birth dates, their social security numbers.
Okay.
We want to know what their estate planning is. What are you planning to have? What do you want to happen with your shares or the value of your portion of the business? Who's that
Okay.
supposed to go to? So we kind of know the family dynamics or the estate dynamics that are in place
Mm-hmm.
if we don't get this thing taken care of.
Okay.
We also want to be looking at, and there are some couple of tools you can use for that on how are we going to value this business?
Mm-hmm.
Some may be valued based on equipment and inventory. Some of them are going to be valued on profit. Some of them are going to be gross sales. It really doesn't matter. You're going to come
Mm-hmm.
up with something, and once it's in print, everybody knows what it is, and this is
Mm-hmm.
what we're going to use. Now, with those type of basic pieces, then you can start looking at building it out for a buy-sell that is for death.
Okay.
Now, the same type of things will want to put in place, but I also believe in disability buy-sell agreements. And I'm
Okay.
going to change the scenario just a little bit. Amy didn't die, but you remember that terrible car accident?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I'm disabled. So I
Okay.
am not going to be able to come back. I am not physically going to be the partner that I was before the accident. There are insurance products out there, and we could have the same type of valuation terms. All those are the same, except now the disability buy-sell is a completely separate document that only deals with disability.
Okay.
And we may pick up an insurance product and write this so that after a period of 6 months or
Mm-hmm.
1 year,
Mm-hmm.
if I cannot return to the business, it's not going to happen, then the disability buy-sell proceeds would pay out to Lakita, because again, we're going to have her own it.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to pay for it.
Okay.
And then that lump sum, tax-free once again, would trigger the disability buy-sell agreement. So
Okay.
whether a partner exits because of disability or death, we
Okay.
have two different instruments, two different types of coverage that we are funding to make sure that this happens. And I know some of you are thinking, oh, I don't want to spend a lot of money on insurance. Oh, Amy, don't make me. You don't have to. You do not have to do this.
Yeah.
Now, as long as you have enough money in the bank,
Mm-hmm.
or you can get the banker to do it and pay whatever rate that they want for
Mm-hmm.
you to do it, and include those new installment payments in your budget that you never had before.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need it. But otherwise, I highly recommend it because it's self-completing, it's
Mm-hmm.
neat and clean, and it gets the transaction done for
It gets the
everybody.
transition done. Well,
Takes all the
it's,
stress out of it.
it does. It does. So I got another scenario. And as a matter of fact, I'm not going to tell the scenario
You gonna
because
let
it's
me?
your story and it's lovely.
Oh, okay.
You
Let
know
me
how you
tell
sold
you.
your business on the plane. Like,
That's right. I decided to
right.
sell a business, but I'm
Yeah.
going to take you now because some of your listeners, you are solopreneurs. So
Yes.
I'm talking to you solopreneurs now. You solopreneurs are going, well, I don't have any partner who's going to buy my business. I want you to look around. Look
Mm-hmm.
around at your competitors.
Mm-hmm.
Look around at a colleague or somebody that you know that if they could step in, they may not do it exactly the way you do, but they would want your company. So if
Yeah.
you're a solopreneur, there is nothing that prohibits you from having a buy-sell or a disability buy-sell agreement with someone else, as long as you can come up with the terms. And you're doing the same thing. You're protecting the value of the asset
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that if you have to walk away from the business or if you pass away, that your family has got that asset. There's an agreement already in place that makes this a very neat, smooth, clean transaction, and it's done. When I had my securities practice for 25 years, I had a buy-sell agreement. I was the only rep in my office, but I had worked with another colleague and we put this in place and we had a buy-sell agreement. He owned a life insurance policy on me. I was fine with it. I did all the steps to make sure it happened. When the world changed and I decided to sell it, and he did not
Mm-hmm.
want to buy it at that point. He had some things change in his life, and I found another buyer, which is the story you're talking about, that because this had passed. When the gentleman and I decided to let go of that because of the dynamics that changed in his life, I paid him $100 and I bought the life insurance policy and I kept it with
Mm-hmm.
the idea that if I passed away, my spouse was going to have the money out of the practice, whether he was going to be able to sell it or not, until
Okay.
if there was a gap between one agreement and another, finding the
Mm-hmm.
right fit. And so if you're a solopreneur, that doesn't mean that you can't do a buy sell agreement. You can.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just look around your circle a little bit and say, who would be good to take my business and they could run with it and take care of my clientele? So does that
Mm-hmm.
help you whether you're a partner? And I don't care if you got one partner or 10, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cross going back when you got 10, or if there's just a solopreneur, this will work for you. Does
It
that
does.
help?
It does. I mean, you've covered some excellent scenarios, and I like that story when you decided that last minute you had to sell,
Mhm.
because a lot of times, and we talked about it before, when people start a business, especially if they want it to be family owned and operated, in your head, your children are on board. You know, in your head, your grandchildren are doing this thing, your great grandchildren,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
reality sets in, and it's like, well, my children don't want to do this.
No,
And so if they don't want to do it, it's highly unlikely that my grandchildren are going to do it. And so when I get to that space in time where I want to retire and I don't want to do it anymore, how have I evaluated my business so that it can then be sellable, or
yeah,
is it sellable in the entire time? I probably should ask
yes,
that question first before we started talking about the
that's
buy
okay.
sell agreements, but I didn't, because my brain don't always function like that. But if you're that person like myself, you're saying, okay, all this sounds good for you guys, but I never plan on
Mhm.
selling my business because it's going to be my tool that I use to give my family generational wealth. Well, what if your next generations don't want to do it? Are you
Yep,
going to spend time just being mad at them because they don't want to do it?
no,
Or will you have something set in place so that they don't want to do it, but they can still benefit from it,
yes,
because and now it's easier for them to sell, because if they don't want to do it, that means they've had absolutely positively nothing to do with how it's operating, perhaps maybe making a bank deposit, but that don't qualify.
no,
So how would they even know how to sell it?
exactly.
And
And
yeah.
you're hitting on a really good point there that we have talked a little bit about, on the
Yes.
podcast. You need to be building your businesses to be sellable every day of the year, because you do
Mm,
not know when you're going to want to sell that business or when you're going to need to sell the business. Some of
mhm.
you will say, "Oh, I'm not selling my business till I get to retirement." Well, you guarantee me that when you get to retirement on Tuesday of January, that the buyer is going to be going, "Oh, I've been just waiting for you to sell that business. I'm ready to buy it today." Because there is no guarantee that the buyer is going to show up on the day that you thought they would. Okay. They may show up earlier, they may show up later. You may have to deconstruct your business and sell it off in pieces and
Mhm,
parts.
mhm,
So I believe in being sellable every day is one of the things that
mhm.
she's getting at. And
Yeah.
along with that, when I say sometimes life changes, many of you will have your business and it's your passion and it's
Mhm,
great, but the world changes. And when you look at a lot of the statistics, many businesses do not survive past the 5 or a 10-year mark.
mhm.
And part of that is because the world changes. And I'm going
Yeah.
to throw a couple of terms out there, and some of them may date me, but some of you are going to get it. Do you still need a pet rock? How many Cabbage Patch dolls do you still have? Are there any of you that are still using a transistor radio?
Hmm.
How many of you prefer to use the push mowers that are not electrified? They just had those round things that kept going around and around. And one of my favorites is, there was a time when people used buggy whips.
Mm.
Buggy whips, everybody had to have a buggy whip. Well, there are
Mhm.
still some communities that use buggy whips, but if all you did and you were the best buggy whip maker in the world, how many buggy whips do you think you can sell right now?
Hmm.
So businesses change. If you look back
Mhm.
on, here's one that most of us will be familiar with. If I say the word blockbuster,
Come on now.
what comes to your mind, Laquita? What was Blockbuster?
Uh, they rented videos. And notice I said they did.
Did they rent a lot of them?
They rented a lot of them
Did they have a
and
lot
their
of
time,
stores?
a
Yeah.
lot of stores.
But did their time pass? It doesn't mean they weren't highly
Mhm,
profitable during that time
mhm,
frame. If they did it right,
mhm.
they wouldn't have been doing it. But is it a model that can still last today? No.
Absolutely not.
No. And so when I say that you may hope or you may dream that your business will last to retirement, there are many businesses that just because of the dynamics, they will have a lifespan. And that
Mhm,
lifespan may not be the lifespan that you're anticipating. So you
mhm,
need to be able to have your business sellable every day of the year. And so
mhm,
if you're seeing some things, maybe it's time for you to get out. And it's
mhm.
okay, folks, to sell a business at a profit. It's all right to pay taxes on a profit. There
Yeah.
is no gain in bawling over losses that you carry at $3,000 a year for the rest of your life. There's no joy there. None.
Yeah, this
And,
is
and so we talked about the buy-sell agreement when it's coming down, and really that is a tool that is used for at disability and at death. That's what it's
mhm.
for. So we have to talk about tools when we're living, and tools when you're
Yes.
living is that business needs to be sellable every day of the year.
Mhm.
And then is that making sense to you?
It is. It is. It absolutely is. Some people in our audience are loving the jewels that you're dropping. I don't know if you can see
Mhm.
some of the comments there on the
No, I
side,
can't.
but
No, but
no,
I thank you for each
yeah.
one. I will look at it later. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is really good, because again, these are some things sometimes that, when you're building a business or that
Mhm.
idea to have this business, these aren't necessarily the things that first come to mind. What are the tools that I need to have in place in the event of disability, in the event of death, or in the event that this is not going to pass down to the generations because my next generation doesn't want to do what I'm doing, what do I have in place, and I can, transparently, honestly say when we were building our business, our
Mhm.
kids said we don't want to have anything to do with real estate. That's boring.
That's okay.
And well, in that moment, it wasn't okay with me. But after a minute, we had to think about it. Okay. So they don't want to have anything to do with real estate. They don't want to be speakers and coaches. They don't want to do the things that we do. So, all right. Now I need to think about when do I want to get out? And
Mhm.
what does that look like? And what do I need to be doing now to make sure that when I get out, when I sell, that I have a sellable product? It's something somebody will want to sell. And it's just not me closing the door and saying, okay, it was fun. Now it's over.
And there's no money.
Yeah, and there's no money.
There's no money. Do you want me to tell them about the plane? We visited about that. Do you want me to
I
spend a
do. I
minute
want
on.
I want you to tell them about the plane.
All right. Folks, I have a real life just like you do. I have a real family. We're all in this together, just in different places. I had in a 24-hour period, things hit me, call it the perfect storms that were just one after another. But I had been building my business to be sellable every day for years. I had
Mhm,
no intention of letting it go. I'd had it for 25 years. I thought I would continue my portfolio management practice probably until I was 70. There would be no reason for me to let go of it. That was plan A. But plan B
mhm,
was that I'm going to have this thing sellable. So if the world ever changes, I can let go of it and feel
mm,
good about it
mm,
and have a sellable product. The business was a sellable product. Sole proprietor, managed a little over 300 individuals' investment portfolios, and that's the piece I'm talking about. Well, I got an email in an afternoon, Friday afternoon, that one of the companies I used to clear my transactions with, which is huge, said that they didn't want to be in the Virgin Islands anymore. And I had 30 days to find a new company and onboard all 300 plus of my clients, or I could consider moving back to the US. Well, I was not moving back to the US, so that wasn't an option. The idea of onboarding and finding another company with the Virgin Island demographics was like, well, this is not going to work. Now, you'd have to know that I had already set up that my assistant for many years was retiring. I was going the next week to close out her office and to start training a new virtual assistant where I had a presence. That was happening. So I'm losing the key person if I really wanted to do it who could help me get it done.
mhm.
that I was not going to beg her. We had planned this for months on her exit to make it smooth. So I'm reeling with that. It's Friday night. Saturday morning, my mother-in-law calls. She's quite upset. She has what she believes is breast cancer for the third time. I already had
Mm.
plane tickets for Sunday. So, this is it. Okay, fine. I get on a plane, I pack, completely rechange, cancel my return tickets. It's like, well, everything's changing now because I was the best one to go to be with my
Mhm.
mother-in-law, and I was already going to be right in the same city. So it was going to work out well. I sat on that plane and I'm thinking about how am I going to take care of these 312 people? How am I going to do this? I can train the new one. Do I really want what? I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm
Mm.
ready to sell the company. I think selling the
Mm.
company is the best choice for me. It's the best choice for my client. I need to take care of my mother, and I've kind of thought I wanted to do some other time things. This might be a good time
Mm.
on a plane. Now, in my computer that is on the plane with me, I had already been working on an agreement that I had been keeping kind of updated as I would think things and I would add to it for a potential contract, how I was going to value my business, all those type of things. So I already had a blueprint in essence of when I was ready to let go that I could go to propel me. I
Mhm.
thought about who would probably be the best person. And then I had a short list of people that I had kind of been vetting out for a period of time. I
Mhm.
got on the ground Monday and I called one of those individuals, the top one on my list, and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling my business. Is this anything you
Mm.
might be interested in?" "Well, when?" "Now." And we had a couple of conversations. I ended up driving over a couple of hours, spent some time, laid out exactly what I had, showed them what I had, showed them what my preliminary agreement, some things that we could work out. Were they interested? And if not, I wasn't offended, but I would be moving on quickly.
Mhm.
The end of that story is that we worked that contract back and forth, fine tuned it a little bit, agreed on a transition. And Saturday, I had the signed contract in my hand along with the first installment, and my business was sold 6
That's
days.
awesome. That's
But the only
awesome.
reason that happened is because I had a sellable product.
Mhm.
I already had a blueprint for how my business could be transitioned. Again, whether I was alive or dead, how this could
Mhm.
happen, what are the components involved. And I already had a formula in because I'd done my research on what was a realistic price to charge for this.
For
And
the
when he and I were having that discussion, he said, I'm looking at this. You're a little bit on the high end. And I said, yes, I am. Now let's look at why. I can hand you every client file. I can hand you every note. I can tell you and project what your income is. I can do all of this. And I will also help train you on the tools that you're not using now and put these systems in place. And he goes, "You're going to make me more money." I said,
Yes.
"That is why I am on the top end. And I think it's a very fair number."
Mhm.
And we did end up, because he ended up changing broker dealers over time. So we modified the contract. I think we modified it twice because in my scenario, I really wanted paid out over a period of 5 years. I did not want it only on 1 year. And you'll love this.
Mm.
What do you think that I required him to have as a part of the agreement in case he died before he paid me off? What do you think I
Well,
had him have?
a life insurance policy.
You bet. And who do you think was the beneficiary? And we had a formula that this was the top number. Any
Mhm.
payments he made would be deducted from it, and in the event of his death, that number would be the amount that would be remaining to be paid to me. So even on my selling agreement where I
Mhm.
decided to do it in installments, I wanted to protect me
Mhm.
in the event of his death. Now, as long as he was living, there had to be some trust and some things involved, but I wasn't
Mhm.
gonna pick somebody that I didn't
Didn't trust.
feel
Yeah.
that wasn't seasoned and couldn't trust.
Yeah.
But can you do that? Absolutely. Do I look like a normal person to you?
Absolutely.
You look
Absolutely.
like a normal person to me, and there is no reason that thinking of yourself as normal persons, you are
Mhm.
also a business owner, and you need to
Mhm.
have a business mind to protect your interests, protect your clientele's,
Mhm.
and then look at protecting the asset value. And
Right.
and that's some of my own personal experience. So hopefully that's helpful to some of you.
Oh, I know that has been more than helpful. And for those that are looking or may perhaps watch the replay and say, you guys are talking a lot about insuring people, that sounds crazy. But listen, uh, if you are a C-suite
Mhm.
individual, this is not, it doesn't sound crazy to you. You already know
Mm-mm.
because it's a policy on you. Your company has a policy on you, depending on what you're doing and the value that you bring to the company. This is something that major corporations do on a normal basis, even
Time.
even to the point where, depending on what you do for the company, and you're the only person that do it, there's even
Yes.
activities that you can't participate in because it's a risk to your health and your well-being, and you're that valuable asset. You're the human capital. Might
Mhm.
not like to hear that term, but you're the human capital for that business, and so they're protecting that capital. And as as small business owners, we are the human capital for our
That's correct.
businesses.
And now ask me if I use insurance for everything. The answer is no. It's
Mhm,
a tool. And when you
mhm,
talk about Lakita's toolbox, there are tools that you have that you don't pull out and use for every application.
right.
But and let me do this one real quick. This is a visual. You all go to the grocery store. I know you do.
Mhm,
When you go down the cleaning aisle, there's all kinds of cleaning products. Now, if I pick up the glass cleaner and I pick up fabric softener, those are two very different products.
mhm,
And I pick up dish soap. We can agree they are all some type of cleaning products, but they don't do the same thing.
mhm.
Now, if I go into my kitchen and I try to wash my dishes and I use fabric softener, now something may happen, but it's not going to be the result that I wanted.
Not at all.
And if I tried to use the glass cleaner to wash my clothes, this is not going to work or soften them. And
Yeah.
the same thing with the dish soap, squirting it on, trying to clean my windows.
Mhm,
But when I use each one of those products for what they're designed for, I'm
mhm.
happy with the result. I get the result that I expected. It saves me time and, it does what I
Yeah.
want. And so there are certain insurance products that you can use. People use homeowners insurance in case you lose your house,
Mhm.
you know. So, with the right application, insurance can be a very wise choice.
Wise
It is
choice.
also a waste of money when you're trying to make it do the wrong thing because you will
Mhm.
never be pleased with the result.
Mm, that's good wisdom. That's really good wisdom. Amy, you have been such a pleasure to have on our show today. I want to make sure I'm mindful of the time of your time
Mhm.
and not keep you too long. Plus, you're going to come back for a part 3. You've done a podcast. We've done a live. So those of you that are saying, okay, Laquita, I got questions. I want to know more. This hasn't been long enough. It's okay. It's okay. Amy will be joining us again on Thursday, October the 14th at
Mhm.
7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And she'll be joining us on Instagram. So those of you that are following me on Instagram, make sure you check my feed, and you'll see that as it gets closer
Mhm.
to the date, we'll talk about that. And if you're not following me on Instagram, go follow me on Instagram.
It'd be a good time to do that.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Lakita and I, we can talk all day. We can just talk about a lot of things, but if there's some specific things,
Mhm.
I've got a very wide knowledge base. You might just want to drop her a note, and that would help both of us to be able to
Yes.
serve you.
Yes, absolutely. That's a really good point. So if there's things that you want to know about, you have between now and the 14th to send those questions in. You can place them in the comment section here, or you could privately message me or email me, and I'll make sure that we address those in the conversation that we'll be having again on the 14th at 7 p.m. on Instagram. But
Mhm.
like I said, Amy, it's been a pleasure. It's been great. Thank you guys so much for those of you that have been popping in and out. And thank you so much for the feedback and the comments and the engagement that's been taking place today. It's truly appreciated. Uh, until next time, I am Laquita Monley, and this has been Laquita's Toolbox Live. You guys be blessed.
Bye.
Bye.